66 million years ago, it was the last thing hundreds of prey animals ever saw. Today, it is the last thing standing between our world and total silence about the age of dinosaurs. This is the story of how a creature that ruled the late Cretaceous became one of the most studied, most argued over, and most valuable fossils on Earth. And along the way, we'll meet the individual skeletons with real names, real dig sites, and real controversies that changed paleontology forever. Every T-Rex begins the same way, not as a monster, but as a rumor. A rancher's boot catching on something too smooth to be rock. A single exposed vertebra poking through the Badlands like the tip of an iceberg. Almost every major T-Rex discovery on record traces back to one place, the Hell Creek Formation, a band of exposed sedimentary rock stretching across Montana, the Dakotas, and Wyoming. 66 million years ago, this was a humid subtropical floodplain. Today, it's eroding badlands, and every year wind and rain strip away another thin layer of rock, exposing bones that haven't seen daylight since the age of dinosaurs. It was in country like this, in 1990, that fossil hunter Sue Hendrickson spotted a handful of bone fragments at the base of a cliff in South Dakota. What she'd found would become Sue, housed today at Chicago's Field Museum, one of the most complete T-Rex skeletons ever recovered, at over 90% complete. Not every discovery is that lucky. In 2013, Montana rancher turned fossil hunter Craig Thister found a partial skeleton that would later be nicknamed Scotty, after a bottle of scotch the crew shared to celebrate the find. Encased in unusually hard sandstone, Scotty took over 2 decades to fully prepare, but is now considered by weight the largest T-Rex skeleton ever confirmed. Names like Sue, Scotty, Stan, and Trix aren't just nicknames for headlines. In paleontology, naming a specimen makes it identifiable across decades of research papers, museum loans, and public exhibits. When you hear a scientist refer to Sue's skull or Stan's healed rib fracture, they're referring to a specific, individually studied animal, not a generic reconstruction. Before any skeleton earns a nickname or a museum haul, it has to earn something more important first, a date. And contrary to popular belief, scientists don't date the bone itself. They date the rock around it, a method called stratigraphy. Sedimentary rock forms in layers over time, like pages stacking in a book, with the oldest layers at the bottom and the youngest near the top. A fossil's position within those layers tells scientists roughly when the animal died relative to the layers above and below it. For a more precise number, geologists look for volcanic ash layers trapped in the same rock. Volcanic ash contains crystals that can be dated using radiometric dating, measuring the decay of radioactive elements like argon and uranium at a known fixed rate. It's this method that has anchored the Hell Creek Formation and the extinction event that ended it to a number precise almost beyond belief. 66.0 million years, give or take 100,000 years, pinned to the exact geological moment an asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula. That same precision lets scientists place every T-Rex ever found, Sue, Scotty, Stan, and dozens more, into a tight window at the very end of the Cretaceous, making Tyrannosaurus rex quite literally one of the last dinosaurs standing before the world changed forever. If the body tells you how the animal died, the skull tells you how it lived, and it's the most dangerous part of any dig to remove. A T-Rex skull can weigh over 500 pounds before the surrounding rock is even accounted for.
Tyrannosaurus teeth were built less like blades and more like railroad spikes, designed for bone-crushing force. Estimates put an adult T-Rex's bite at over 12,000 pounds per square inch, among the strongest of any land animal in Earth's history. Bite marks matching those teeth have even been found embedded directly in the fossilized bones of Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, physical proof, not guesswork. To move a skull like this, crews use field jacketing, wet plaster-soaked burlap wrapped around the fossil while it's still partly in the ground, forming a protective shell, much like a cast for a broken bone. Only once it hardens is the skull, encased and safe, finally lifted free.
This is where the real detective work happens. Fossil preparators spend thousands of hours removing rock matrix millimeter by millimeter, using pneumatic air scribes, fine needles, and raw patience. It was during preparation of a specimen nicknamed Stan, discovered in South Dakota in 1987, that researchers found something unexpected. Puncture wounds in the skull, a broken and healed neck, and a hole clean through the back of the head, likely from a battle with another T-Rex. Stan didn't just die a predator, he'd survived being attacked by one. But not every skeleton in the lab is universally agreed upon. One of paleontology's hottest ongoing debates centers on smaller, more slender skeletons, like the one nicknamed Jane. Is this a genuinely separate species, informally called Nanotyrannus, or simply a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex, not yet grown into its adult proportions? Bone histology, growth ring counts, and skull fusion patterns are all cited as evidence by both sides. As of today, this remains one of the most unresolved arguments in all of dinosaur paleontology, and new papers on it are still being published. This is also where growth ring analysis happens, counting internal bone rings much like tree rings, revealing that T-Rex may have gained over 4 pounds of body weight per day during adolescence, one of the fastest growth rates of any land animal ever measured. Not every T-Rex skeleton ends up in a public museum, and that's become one of the most controversial issues in modern paleontology. In 2020, Stan made headlines again, not for science, but for a record-breaking auction sale to a private buyer for $31.8 million, the highest price ever paid for a dinosaur fossil. Scientists were divided. Some worried that a scientifically significant, publicly studied specimen might disappear permanently into a private collection, inaccessible to researchers. Others pointed out that private sales fund further excavation and preservation work that museums alone often can't afford. This tension between fossils as scientific data and fossils as high-value collectibles is now a defining issue in the field. Every time a new skeleton is unearthed, one of the first questions asked is no longer just what species is it, but who will own it, and will science still have access? Stand beneath the fully mounted Tyrannosaurus rex and the scale becomes impossible to ignore. Over 40 feet long, roughly 12 feet tall at the hip, with a skull nearly 5 feet from snout to jaw. Inside sat one of the largest olfactory systems ever measured in a predator, a sense of smell rivaling a modern vulture's. Its forward-facing eyes gave it depth perception unusual for its size, and its tail, long and muscular, acted as a counterbalance that let a multi-ton animal move with real agility. Some estimates suggest speeds up to 17 miles per hour. From a single exposed vertebra in the Badlands of Hell Creek to Sue, Stan, Jane, each with their own story, their own wounds, their own unanswered questions, the journey of a Tyrannosaurus rex fossil is nothing short of resurrection. It died once, 66 million years ago, and thanks to the patient work of scientists and sometimes the sharp eyes of ranchers and amateur hunters, It rises again, not to hunt, but to teach us who we are by showing us who came before. If you want to keep digging into the real science behind Earth's greatest predators, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Which T-Rex debate do you believe? Is Nanotyrannus its own species or just a teenage Tyrant King? Let's settle it in the comments. This has been Bones of the Tyrant King.